Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Ontario Caregiver Organization's webinar series. These webinars bring together caregivers and subject matter experts to explore topics most important to caregivers. We do this to support and engage chosen family, friends, and neighbors who are caring for someone. I'm Felicia Hart, a caregiver, as well as acting executive lead for programs and services at the Ontario Caregiver Organization. I will be one of your hosts today. I am also joined by my colleague, Katie Muirhead, who will be monitoring the chat with us today. Please note that your microphones have been muted and your videos are turned off to provide privacy to all participants today. This webinar is being recorded and the recording will be available to you after the session. Closed captioning is also available within the webinar. If you need it, you can turn it on within your Zoom settings. We will have a live Q&A at the end of the presentation, but if you have comments or questions in the meantime, please do feel free to type them into the chat box. We will also be using some polls throughout the session today to better interact with you and give you a chance to answer some real-time questions. You'll have those pop up on your screen and you'll be able to answer them. If you have any technical difficulties, please do type them into the chat box and we will do our very best to support you throughout the session. So as we begin this gathering, I want to start by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands we are on today. While we meet on a virtual platform with people joining us from across the province, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we all call home. I am coming to you from Clarington, Ontario, which is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas and Chippewa of the Anishinaabe, known today as the William Treaties First Nations. I came to be here through generations of immigration to this land. And at the Ontario Caregiver Organization, we are working to better understand how we can be meaningful allies and support the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. We now invite you to take a moment to reflect on the land where you are. And if you are not familiar with that, we will share a link to help you learn more after today's session. So we have a very exciting session prepared for you today. We are focusing on understanding the basics of artificial intelligence and how it may interact with caregiving. In a world where technology advances very quickly around us, it is truly important to take that time to understand how it's impacting us as individuals, as well as our caregiving roles. Today's speaker is our colleague Kunal Parikh, who will lead us in this session. Kunal is a passionate advocate for social justice pertinent to aging, caregiving, and disabilities, a digital health strategist, and a dedicated educator. Originally a practicing physician in India, Kunal pivoted to health tech to pursue the potential of technology to improve patient safety and care delivery. He holds a postgraduate degree in digital health from Algonquin College, as well as a master's in aging and health from Queen's University, where he earned the Award of Excellence. Currently, he is an analyst at the Ottawa Hospital and an adjunct professor at Algonquin College, as well as a consultant for several digital health companies. Kunal, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so pleased to have you. Over to you to get us started.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kunal, and today we're pulling back the curtain on AI. I'm not here to sell you on it or to scare you away from it, but to give you plain language information you need to make your own decisions. So AI has existed for decades at this point, but it really has been having like this shining spotlight on it in the last couple of years with ChatGPT and Gemini and a lot of other commercially available tools. It is no longer something that is just for the scientists or researchers or developers, but really for all of us common people. So this session is meant to be a beginner-friendly guide on how to navigate the storm and gold rush of AI and we're in it because it is literally everywhere. You cannot go 5 sentences in a conversation about technology or aging without the mention of AI. So let's get into it. All right. So one of the things that Felicia said to me while we were preparing for this presentation was, Kunal, why should anyone trust you? Um, Fair enough. So I guess I'll tell you a little bit of my story. As Felicia mentioned, by trade, I'm a physician. After 3 years of practice, I was confident that this is not the place for me. This is not the career that I want to be in because it does not leave me enough time to build these relationships with the people that I desire to help. That is my patients and their families. And that is what prompted me to start exploring the role of technology in patient safety and healthcare quality and healthcare access in general. And that marked my transition to digital health. And one of the first companies that I worked for was this skills-based training platform for caregivers of older adults. And that blew so many light bulbs in my head because I was not aware of those social justice challenges so prevalent and so pernicious and so pervasive in the aging and caregiving world. So that made me go back to Queens to do my master's in aging and health. And I loved every minute of it because that research and those papers that I wrote instigated these tangents that I've been going off on ever since. As an example, one of the things that came out of my research was not all caregivers identify themselves as such. I may think, oh, I'm just being a good husband or a good son or a good uh, parent. But in reality, the role of a caregiver is very different than the original role. There is bleed, but there is a difference. And that's what led me to do my TED talk on exactly this. Did you know you are a caregiver? At this point, I'm involved and invested in a lot of advocacy and social justice campaigns that help enhance the visibility of the role of caregiving because there's so much that caregivers do with very little support. So, what is care tech? Let's start with a definition. You will hear terms like age tech and health tech and care tech, and they do overlap a lot. But for today, let's use CareTech as the broadest umbrella. It is any technology designed to support caregivers and the people that they care for. Now, in the context of caregiving, the concept of self-management can be very complex. Let's take an example of someone who has diabetes. For them, self-management means taking care of their own nutrition, taking care of their own exercise, and taking care of their own glucose levels, among a lot of other things. But as a caregiver, you're not only managing the health of the care recipient, but also your own health and your own emotions and your own social life. So it's got a bivalent meaning and a bivalent approach. And there is technology that can help with the self-management of caregivers. It could be something physical, like a fall detection sensor or an automated pill dispenser. It could also be something digital, like an app that helps you coordinate schedules or book an appointment with your healthcare provider. It could be as simple as that. So care tech ranges from highly specialized tools built for specific conditions all the way to generic tools like ChatGPT that people are starting to use in caregiving contexts. I I've heard this so many times from caregivers. Oh, I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, well, these are the things that are happening with my loved one. What do I do in this case? And then ChatGPT gives me recommendations. So, as I said, care tech ranges from very specialized to very generic or very generalized tools. The key thing to understand here is that this is a spectrum and not all care tech will involve AI. As another example, you might have seen these electrical can openers. I think that's a great example of technology, but that does not have any, Wi-Fi connection, or it does not have AI. It's just a tool. So care tech can involve AI, but it does not always. For today's conversation, however, we're going to focus on the AI specific age tech and care tech. This space is booming. There are over 300 new companies that appeared on the global age tech market map in 2025 alone. And the sector has attracted over $8.8 billion in funding over the last decade. That is billion with a B. That's a lot of money chasing solutions and a lot of new tools hitting the market that claim to make caregiving easier. Now, that's happening on the tech side of things. What's happening on the ground? One in four Canadians is a caregiver. You know that. You know how difficult caregiving is. You know how satisfying it is, but you also know how difficult it is. You're navigating 10,000 priorities and demands of care. And now you're being told that there are these hundreds of new tools that you should consider, that you should probably try out so that caregiving feels easier. And what happens as a result of this is it can cause analysis paralysis. This is a very fancy term for what happens when you just cannot decide what makes sense, or more specifically, for you. This happens to me all the time when I'm getting candy for Halloween. I just want to get it all, but I cannot. So I need to choose, and that causes such a paralyzing thing. I then need to pick what candy do I need to get. It's always Kit Kat, by the way. Uh, the other side of it is you might tune out entirely and miss out the things that could actually help. You have the analysis paralysis, and you're so inundated by this overwhelm of new tools that you tune it out entirely, and that's not helpful either. So this session cuts through that noise, and we're going to go back to the basics. There's three words I'd use to describe how we're approaching this session. Informative, because we will share what we know and be upfront about what we don't know as of yet. It's exploratory, because we're asking questions, we're not pushing answers. This is all about curiosity over conclusions. And honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat the risks. I'm going to tell you exactly what risks and concerns you should have, but I'm not going to be indulging in fear mongering either. We're not here to tell you what to do. We are here to give you enough information so that you can decide for yourself. Now, here's our roadmap. I love books, so I've organized our whole session today in chapters. We will start with what AI actually is, plain language, I promise. And then we look at where it shows up in your everyday life. From there, we'll explore where AI and caregiving might intersect, then the risk, because you need the full picture, and finally, a safety toolkit that you can take home and use immediately. By the end, you should know enough to decide for yourself what role AI should play in your caregiving, if any. That's exactly what we want here. Now, before we get into this, before we get into chapter one, I want to do a quick poll. How would you describe your comfort level with AI right now? Are you leaning towards being cautious? Are you very cautious about it? Are you curious? You want to know more, but you don't have all of the information right now. Do you feel comfortable? You know, you've used some tools and you feel really good about using them going forward. Or are you confused? And there's just so much going on. I don't know what to do with this information. Or there's the last option, could not care less. So the poll has ended, and very interestingly, The majority of you said you're comfortable using AI, which I truly love. We love a good informed audience. But if you're leaning towards cautious or curious, I totally respect that because the landscape is changing every single day. You're right in being cautious. You're right in being curious about what could additionally help. Chapter one, what is AI? I've got a fun activity here. Um, Look at this grid. There's kind of a lot of fruits on the whole screen. There's apples, bananas, grapes, apples, bananas, grapes, apples, bananas, grapes. But there is an empty box. I want to know from you, what do you think goes in that empty box? Could you please put that in the chat? What fruit do we think goes in that empty box right there? I see a lot of grapes, a lot of grapes. You looked at data, you found a pattern, and made a prediction about what comes next. That's it. That is the very fundamental thing that AI does at a massive scale with massive amounts of data and massive speed. But the principle is exactly what you just did with the fruit. You look at data, you make a prediction, and you tell me. So here's the definition of AI. AI is a tool that finds patterns and makes predictions. It works in three stages. The first is training. Now, this software is fed enormous amounts of data, billions of pages of text, images, medical records, websites, books, journals, you name it. During training, it identifies patterns and relationships in your data. For example, Google fed years of driving data into the system, millions of trips, speed, traffic patterns, accident reports, time of the day, road closures, all of it. Now, second, these patterns get encoded into a model. Think of it as a massive set of statistical rules about what's likely to follow what. So the Google Map system learned, well, when it's 5 p.m. on a Friday and the highway is slow, drivers took this side street and got home 12 minutes faster. And then third is when you give it a prompt or a question, the model uses those rules to generate the most likely response, word by word, prediction by prediction. It does not really understand what it's saying. It calculates what is most statistically probable to come next. You open maps and it shows you the alternative route. It didn't drive the route, but it just knows what happened last time. That's very true for ChatGPT, image generators, voice assistants. The same principle underlies all of them. There's different flavors or kinds of AI, and it helps to know which of these you're dealing with. The first one, predictive AI, looks at what happened before and estimates what will come next. Think Netflix recommendations or your bank frauds detection. This is the reason why Netflix knows you will watch that true crime documentary before you do. The second is generative AI. It takes what it has seen and produces something new. That's ChatGPT, image generators, or tools that can write or summarize text. And the third one is agentic AI. This goes beyond answering questions to actually doing things for you, like booking appointments or executing multi-step tasks. This is still in its early days, I would say. Think of it like an eager intern. Lots of potential, but you probably would not leave it unsupervised on day one. Now, before we go further, let's clear up some common misconceptions. The first one, AI thinks like a human. No, it does not. It calculates probability. There is no understanding, no reasoning that's happening. It is the same idea as a does a calculator do math? No, it is programmed to calculate. There's a difference. The second, AI knows things. Again, it does not know anything. It pattern matches from training data that we have fed it. When it sounds knowledgeable, it is because the training data was knowledgeable. And then the third is AI is objective and neutral. No, absolutely not. Uh, AI is not objective. AI inherits every single bias baked into the data that it was trained on. If the data has gaps, and it does, so does the AI model. We come back to this one because this needs a lot more detail. And then not all AI is the same. This is a distinction most people miss, and it really, really matters. Consumer AI, tools like ChatGPT, they're general purpose. They're like a Swiss Army knife. They can do a lot, but they're not built for one specific task, and they have no care specific safeguards. But then there's purpose built care tools like medication reminders or software as a service, fall detection systems, care coordination platforms. All of these are designed for the specific task with specific safeguards. Why does this difference matter? Because the risks are different. The way your data is handled is different, and the accountability mechanism is different. When someone says to me, I used AI for caregiving, my first question is, tell me more. What kind? Because it makes the world of a difference. All right, enough definitions. Let's talk about where AI already lives in your life or it does not. Uh, with that, another poll. Do you currently use AI? I'm curious to hear from you. Do you use it all the time? Maybe frequently? Maybe just sometimes? You've probably used it once or twice, or never so far. This really helps us understand what your current utilization patterns of AI look like. We're getting a lot of results, and the majority of you said you've used it sometimes, but not frequently or not all the time. Some of you have said you have used it once or twice, and a couple of you said never. So that's interesting. We're going to dig into that a little more. I'm about to prove that you're already using AI, whether you know it or not. Here's here's how I want you to think about it. Most people picture robots or chatbots when they hear AI, but AI is already embedded in dozens of tools you use every single day. You don't get a notification that says AI was involved in this, or you don't always see the marketing that says, oh, this is AI powered. It just happens. Let me show you. So every time your phone autocorrects a word or suggests a smart reply or types out what the duck instead of what you really want to say, that's AI. Every time your email filters out spam before you even see it, that's AI. Every time Google Maps reroutes you around traffic, AI. Netflix suggestions, fraud alerts on your bank card, those AI generated summaries at the top of your Google searches, all AI. None of these will explicitly say powered by AI on them, and that's by design. AI is increasingly invisible, embedded in systems that you didn't choose and you cannot necessarily opt out of. So the whole spiel with this is you're probably already using AI in a lot of your processes and your day to day. Now, I really, really need to emphasize this. AI speaks in a very confident voice, even when it's dead wrong. It sounds authoritative, well reasoned, well structured, almost like an expert in the field, but all it is doing is pattern matching and probability, math, statistics, no understanding, no significant fact checking itself, no awareness of your specific situation. So I think of AI like an overconfident intern, smart, fast, impressive presentation skills, but they will tell you something completely dead wrong with the same confident tone they use even when they're right. And that is confusing. Now, if a person talked like this as confidently while being wrong this often, you would stop inviting them to dinner. Now, imagine being that confidently wrong about medication interactions or care options. That's the stakes. So, the single idea that I want you to take home, if you take away nothing else, is AI is a tool. Like any tool, it is useful when you're the one holding it and deciding what to do with it. The moment you hand over the decision, the moment you stop questioning the output and just act on it, it's no longer a tool. It's become a decision maker. And that is a role that it was not built for. It does not know you. It does not know your care recipient. It does not know your values. It does not know what you promised somebody at 3 a.m. when nobody else was awake. You do. So use AI to help you think. Maybe let it think for you a little bit, but never let it decide for you. We are not there yet. So let's get into the heart of it. Where might AI and caregiving intersect? I want to be clear about the framing here. We're not recommending anything. We're exploring what's emerging so you can decide what's right for you and the people that you care for. Caregiving is constantly operating on two logics at the same time, and every caregiver in the room knows both of them immediately. On the left, you see the management logic, which is, researching options, coordinating between providers, packing your medications, managing finances and paperwork, following up on referrals, scheduling across multiple people. There's just so much admin work to be done. It is relentless, it is persistent, and it is constant. On the right, there's the care logic. That's the care logic. It is being present, really listening to your person and picking up on those nonverbal cues, advocating in difficult meetings with healthcare providers, making sure your and their voice is heard, providing comfort at 2 a.m., making judgment calls under pressure, offering dignity and companionship, and holding space on the hardest of days. These are the two concurrent, simultaneous things happening in caregiving at the same time. So the goal is, can AI help with any of the management load so that you have more energy left for the care part itself? That's a possibility. It does come with trade-offs that we need to talk about, though. So where can AI reduce the load for you? I try to organize them into four different domains. The first one being health and safety. These tools help you say, I feel more in control of my health. These are things like medication reminders and tracking, symptom logging, pattern spotting, summarizing medical or discharge summaries. The second domain is daily living. When you use these tools, you can effectively say, oh, I can live at home independently. My care recipient can live at home without any transition to residential facilities. Think of these as an app to organize a care schedule among different siblings, or smart home automation, or reminiscence therapy. The third domain is connection and support because all of us need people in our lives. Um, this helps you say, I have a support system to lean on. Think of these tools as simplified communication with video platforms and shared care hubs, or peer support, or companionships and robots. And the last one is empowerment in planning. This helps you say, I feel prepared, informed, and confident. This helps you prepare questions for appointments. It helps you research benefits that are available to you and available supports, even skill training for caregiving challenges. There's a lot of different types of tools that are available for you at your disposal. And I have put all of these together on a map. We don't have the time in today's session to go into every single one of them in detail. However, uh, because it's dense, that's kind of the point. There's a lot of tools. If you'd like a copy of this to explore on your own, just type in HTech in the chat and we'll send it to you after the session. You don't need to absorb all of this right now. Just notice the scale of what's being built right now. So we talked about where AI can reduce your load. Let's also talk about where AI is going to increase your load. This is the flip side that you don't hear about that often. More tools means more decisions to be made, which means more cognitive load, as if you don't have 1,000 things taking your cognitive reserves all day. Every new tool will require a setup. You've essentially added admin work to reduce admin work. And that app fatigue is real, especially when you're exhausted. And my biggest pet peeve is if AI gives you a tone deaf or a generic response at a moment when you're vulnerable or you're already frustrated, maybe when you're grieving or when you're burnt out, when you need someone to understand and you don't have the energy or capacity to explain it, that can feel worse than having no support at all. So before anyone tells you, oh, there's an app for that, it's worth asking, is the juice worth the squeeze? So these are some ways in which AI can increase that load. We're at another poll. I love polls. I love getting to know all of you and uh, you know where your head's at. Of those four areas that we mentioned, health and safety, daily living, connection and support, and empowerment and planning, which one has the greatest potential to help you in your lives? There's so many different applications, there's so many different interventions that are applicable right now. And every caregiving trajectory, every caregiving journey is different. So not all interventions are meant for all people. So I'm curious to see how the poll goes. All right. So most of the people have said empowerment and planning is a gap that can be filled really well with AI tools. And I agree, they're getting so good at that because that way you have more time and bandwidth for the real care work. All right, moving on. Chapter 4. Now we've talked about the possibilities. We know what all can happen if we use AI, and there's so many uh, things it can make better for us. But now let's talk about the risks and the unintended consequences, because if you're going to explore any of this, you need the full picture. I want to ground us all in what matters the most. There are four things AI will never replace, no matter how advanced it gets: judgment, intuition, advocacy, and presence. I've said this before, I'll say it again. AI does not know you or the person you care for. You do. the look on your face when someone feels seen, the gut feeling that something's off before any test confirms it, the knowledge of what calms down someone at 2 a.m., the voice in a room full of possible professionals saying, "This is what my person needs." No algorithm can replace that. Let's hold on to that as we talk about the risks. So, every innovation that provides convenience will come with trade offs. That's not a reason to avoid it. Again, being clear, I'm not saying don't use AI, but it's a reason to understand it. We're going to look at four risks: bias, accuracy, simulation, and data privacy. Let's take them one by one. The first one being bias. So AI is a mirror. We've said that before. AI reflects the data that it was trained on. This is the mirror problem. If caregiving populations are underrepresented in that training data, and they are, then AI suggestions for those populations will be thinner, more genetic, or outright wrong. Let me put this in concrete terms. A few years ago, researchers found that a widely used healthcare algorithm in the States was systematically giving lower risk scores to Black patients than white patients with the same conditions. And the result of that was that Black patients were less likely to be referred for additional care. The algorithm was not designed to be racist. It was trained on historical spending data. And because Black patients had historically received less care, the system learned to predict that they would need less. The data was biased, and the AI faithfully reproduced that bias at scale. Now, think about who's providing and receiving care in this room: older adults, people with disabilities, indigenous communities, newcomers to Canada, people living rurally. How much of that experience do you think made it into the training data for AI models? If the data does not represent the reality, then AI's advice will not either. And it won't tell you that. It won't explicitly say that, oh, I am having this bias. It is not self aware like that. Now, I just want to add one more caveat to this. Um, I'm not saying that healthcare providers are bias free. Healthcare providers have their own cultural heuristics, they have their own assumptions, they've got their own biases, as much as everyone likes to deny that they do not. That's the same thing with AI. So, bias is something that we're actively trying to work towards with AI models right now. The second is accuracy. Now, AI is very quick to jump to conclusions, and this is a fun way to think about it. It has extreme people pleasing tendencies. Um, this might catch you off guard. Try this at home, okay? Ask an AI a question if you have access to it, then disagree with its answer, and then watch what happens. Most of the time, the AI model will apologize and change its answer to match yours, even if it was right in the first place. It is a people pleaser. It would rather agree with you than hold its ground. And the quality of the output depends heavily on the quality of the input: garbage in, garbage out, but delivered with confidence, of course. Now, this has real consequences if you go in with the assumption or this, bias or mental model that I think this medication is not working, and ask an AI about it. The AI is likely to validate your assumption rather than challenge it. It reflects your input back to you, polished up and made to feel authoritative. You end up more convinced of something that might not be accurate, and you walk into the doctor's office with false confidence. The tool amplified your bias rather than correcting it. Then there's the element of simulation. Let me say this 1,000 times if I can. Emotional fluency is not the same as genuine empathy. There are tons of use cases for using AI companions or robotic pets or using AI to solve social isolation, but AI can at best simulate or mirror what a human would say, but only the good parts, not the parts where a good friend calls you out or challenges your blind spots to make you a better person. I want to share something that actually happened. There's a man, this was all over the news a few weeks ago, by the way. A man was using an AI chatbot for companionship. Over weeks, the bot learned his patterns, mirrored his emotional language, and responded in ways that felt deeply personal. He began to rely on it as his primary source of emotional support. The bot was not conscious, it was not concerned about him, it was generating statistically probable responses to his inputs, but it felt real. And that's the risk. This is especially relevant for you as caregivers. You're exhausted, you're emotionally depleted, and here's a tool that responds instantly, never judges you, and always says something that can sound supportive. It can feel like a lifeline, and in a lot of cases it is, but it is performing empathy, not experiencing it. The danger isn't that it's useless, it is that it's convincing enough to replace real human connection. And the people who need real human connection the most are most vulnerable to that substitution. And finally, the big one, data privacy. When you type something into an AI tool and submit it, a chain of events happen. Your data is collected, stored, used to train the model, maybe disclosed to third parties or reviewed by employees. Not always, but it can happen. The question is, how is your data collected, stored, used, and disclosed, and to whom? These are very critical questions. Three questions to search for in any privacy policy. Who owns the data I input? Is my data used to train the model? And can I delete my data? That's very important. If you cannot get clear answers to these three questions, that's a red flag. As a caregiver, you're not just risking your own data, you're also making privacy decisions about someone else's information. You wouldn't photocopy your own medical file and hand it to a stranger. Typing details into a free AI tool could be similar. So those were some of the risks that I wanted to flag for all of you. And we're at the last chapter, which is your safety checklist. Let's make this practical. This chapter gives you tools you can use immediately starting today. So I like this analogy a lot. AI is like a pocket knife, incredibly useful in the right hands for the right task, but it can also get deeply hurt by it. You know, you need to know which blade to use, when to use it, and when to put it away. You wouldn't use a pocket knife to perform surgery, right? And you would not hand one to someone without showing them how it works or without the proper safeguards. The same logic applies here. So this is your safety checklist. I would encourage you to do these four things every time you use an AI tool. The first is consent first. Consent is not, I asked once and they said it's okay, especially when the person you care for has changing capacity. These are some questions to sit with. Do I understand what the AI tool is? Does the care recipient know where their information might be entered? Would they consent today? Would their consent probably change before the condition changes? The second is strip the details. If you do use an AI tool, remove specific names, dates, addresses, and anything identifying. Ask generally rather than specifically. Now, you might think, but if I don't give it the specifics, how will I get a useful answer? And that's a fair question. Try it though. Ask generally first, and you'll be surprised by how useful the response still is. And if it is not specific enough, you can always add a little more. It's a lot easier to add detail than to take it back once it is on someone else's server. Third, never the final word. Treat AI output like a first draft, not a diagnosis. Always verify with a trusted source. Listen, I'm a physician. If I told you to trust medical information from Google at face value, you'd basically ask to see my medical degree or to prove my degree. The same rule applies here, except AI sounds a lot more convincing than Google ever did. Treat every answer like it's the first draft and that needs a second opinion. And the fourth one is know the tool. Free tools are often paid for with your data. Before you use any tool, check who made this, what data does it need, where does it go, and can I delete it? Here's a 10-second test. Go to the tool's website, search for their privacy policy, and if you cannot find it in the first 30 seconds, or if it's written in language you cannot understand, that should tell you something about how much they want you to read it. All right. We have covered a lot of ground today: definitions, types of AI, everyday AI use cases, caregiving applications, risks, and safety habits. But I want to close on something more fundamental. AI is a great tool to have in your arsenal as a caregiver. How you use it, for good or bad, is up to you. That's both the freedom and the responsibility. The technology will keep evolving. New tools will keep launching. The hype will keep cycling, but the constant don't change. Your judgment, your presence, your knowledge of the person you care for, these are irreplaceable. Use AI to sharpen your thinking, use it to lighten the admin load, use it to find information faster, but never let it replace the things that make you, you. The fact that you showed up today is such a testament to your vigilance as a caregiver. And we've got one last poll for you. If we did a follow-up session to this, what would you want us to dig into even more? Would it be tool reviews, like which tools are worth trying? Would it be real scenarios? What, or me helping you walk through it step by step? Or do a privacy deep dive? What is safe and what is not? And then fourth, family conversations. How to talk about AI with a person that I care for. This really helps us understand what's most useful to you and what you'd like to hear more about. All right, so the unanimous 78% winner, oh, cool, is tool reviews. Which tools are worth trying? We'll definitely take that into account. For now, we have quite a lot of time for questions and answers. Bring on your questions. Give me your comments, your feedback, anything you want to know more about.
Now, as we gather up those questions and comments from our participants today, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for taking the time to prepare today's session, for all caregivers and partners who have joined today's session. Honestly, like when we first started talking about this, it was so important to break things down in a way that could be really accessible to everyone, to those who are just starting to understand AI, to those who might already be using it. I've also noticed in the comments that a lot of people were like, oh, now that I have more understanding and more examples of what AI looks like day to day life, I am using it. Surprise. But you've given us the language. So we actually, have a better sense of what we're talking about now, or when we hear about AI, what that really means. And you've also given us such wonderful examples of where it's showing up, what to be careful of, what to be mindful of, and where it can be helpful. So people really can have something now to ground themselves in this and make some of those key decisions that are important to them while keeping in mind risk, confidentiality, and privacy. So we're getting a lot of comments here. People are really enjoying this session. So thank you. I'm just Katie Muirhead, our colleague here, is helping me round up some of these questions. So one thing that is coming forward here is, you know, there's so many different AI platforms out there, and you've given some examples of what that looks like. Are there any key recommendations that we can walk away today, exactly what we need to be looking for between one platform or another? I know you got into that a little bit, especially when it comes to AI not being the decision maker, and looking for privacy policy, things like that. Is there even just one more thing you would suggest looking for?
I think the element of explainability is very, very important right now because AI is supposed to function like a black box. Like you give it information and then it gives you an output. The way I explained this to the students I teach in the Bachelor of Technology program, it's like a vending machine. You go in, you pay with your credit card, and you punch in 21, and then the Kit Kat comes out. Do we know what's happening behind the fridge or how those things work and how the mechanism actually works? We don't. But it's kind of okay because the stakes are not that high. With AI tools in healthcare, I would definitely look for explainability. How is the AI recommending things that it is? How um, can we explain? Can we put rationale or explanation behind these complex decisions that are being made? I would say if there is an AI that has that explainability component, I would rank it so much higher on something that I would recommend.
Really helpful. Thank you for walking us through that. There's also some questions about, I'm not sure if we can comment on this or not, but how much AI is used by professionals, whether it be in healthcare or long-term care. Do we have any sense of that or how they might be used?
Oh, absolutely. So you might notice this in the next few weeks, or you probably have already noticed it when you go into a clinic or your doctor's office, or even the hospital. Your physician might ask you, "Do you mind if I turn on this scribe in the background?" And I think it could be a really good thing because right now, healthcare providers, or doctors, and nurses, they are in the appointment with you. You give them information, and they're responsible for typing it into their laptop or their workstation, and it takes away so much of their bandwidth from the actual conversation with you. So if a scribe or like an ambient AI tool can capture all of those notes and put that into your electronic medical record, wouldn't that free up so much of their time, again, to provide the care to you? Remove the admin task, delegate it to AI so that you can focus on the care task. So I'm seeing AI scribes and ambient listening technology making huge waves. I'm also seeing that there's there's value in using AI for skills-based training as well. Um, as we know, caregiving situations are so unique and so diverse. Um, I can use AI to help me get more confident with my caregiving skills. And I'm not insinuating that you don't have those skills, but maybe there's a new symptom. Maybe my mom started wandering last week, and I don't know how to deal with that. I finally got good with the whole caregiving situation, and now there's a wandering, and I don't know how to deal with it. But AI can help me with some of that. Again, having said that, it is just a rough draft, first draft. We need to look at that as, oh, the second opinion is mine, and I'm going to actually decide if I kind of trust this or not.
That's a really great explanation. And I think it just gives people a sense of like also why it might be used in different settings. But ultimately, too, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, or if I've missed something, but when I was listening to your presentation and really building my own understanding as well, one thing that's super clear is that we are still in the driver's seat. We are still the decision makers. We still make those final decisions. And one thing that's coming up in the chat a little bit too is like, what if I'm not comfortable in spaces where this might be used? And I would say that the message is you can voice that. You can explain that that is not something that you're comfortable with at this time. If some tools are utilized in your care or while you're participating in supporting the care of your care recipient. So, any comments on that at all? I just wanted to surface that a little bit.
Absolutely. There is no moral imperative for anyone to jump on the AI bandwagon just because it's the hot new commodity right now. You have your system, you have your ways of making care work, and if AI is not part of that picture, that's perfectly fine. It You just know that it's available to you if you want to use it, but you don't have to use it. It's again, I'm all about analogies. It's like a buffet. There's 1,000 things available, but if you don't want to partake, you don't have to, and you're not gonna be worse off. You're still gonna have your own systems, and not having AI does not mean that it's a detriment to how you provide care or how you show up for your person. It is absolutely not a commentary on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I really hope that helps those that are sitting with those questions and learned a lot more today, but are still feeling unsure as to how that might be useful to them or how they want to partake. Now, there's also a lot of questions and comments on like what I would think would be future ideas for sessions. People are really wanting to dig in further on different types of tools and prompts and things. But if you could, just share even a couple of examples of where people could go after today for more information to access like various tools or ideas of what to try, do you have any suggestions for them to start with?
Uh, Absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's just
There's so
a
many.
wide range of resources that I could recommend. Um, I One thing is a HTech ecosystem map that I've put together might be a good place to begin. Depending on the needs that you have right now, you can map it out on that and you can see what works for you. In terms of commercially available tools, I would generally not recommend using something like ChatGPT or Gemini for your day-to-day caregiving tasks, but you could try it out for your operational, um, like admin stuff, like, hey, help me make a meal prep calendar or help me make a list of groceries. These are the things that we might like to eat this week, and then it creates like boom, 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 a grocery list. And I think even things like that are a lot can make your lives a lot easier. I'm going to say this again. I would, in general, discourage using commercial tool or consumer AI tools like that for care related things.
Thank you so much for that clarity and just giving some of those key examples. I so appreciate that. So, Kunal, again, I want to thank you so very much for an incredibly informative and supportive. Like, you've really been so incredibly supportive to everyone that has joined us today in this webinar. And I also want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who joined today as we get started in these conversations. I hope everyone has a really wonderful afternoon. You will be receiving information from us after today's webinar.